We continue now at the top of Daf Tazayin Amad Aleph and Meseches Makkos. This is Makkos Daf 16a. On the previous summit, the Gemara said that Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, they argue whether Hasra Safek, when a person gives a warning to someone else, but it contains a doubt, whether that is called Hasra or not. And the Gemara says we find this Machlokas also by the case of a Shvua, by the case of an oath. The case is the person takes a Shvua, he takes an oath that he'll eat a particular loaf today, and then the whole day passes and he doesn't eat it. So both of them say, meaning both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, they both say that there is no Malkus in this case, but they give different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan says there's no Malkus. The Gemara says Misham to have a lav she'ein bo ma'isa, because this is a negative commandment, but there's no action. What the person did was he did not eat the loaf, which means he didn't do an action. V'chol lav she'ein bo ma'isa ein lo gan olav. When you have a lav she'ein bo ma'isa, there is no Malkus. And Rashi explains Mishum to have a lav shein bo ma'isa, because again it's a lav shein bo ma'isa. Aval Mishum hasra safek, but in terms of hasra safek, lo have a mifter, he's not exempt according to Rabbi Yochanan. The hasra safek shma hasra, because hasra safek is a hasra according to Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara continues, Reish Lakish Omer, Reish Lakish says, Eino Loki, he doesn't get Malkus, Mishum to have a hasra safek. The reason is because of hasra safek. V'chol hasra safek lo shma hasra. Anytime you have hasra safek that is not a hasra, again in this case it is a safek, because there's no point in time where you can tell the person, if you don't do this or if you do this, then you're going to get Malkus, because again the person has the entire day to eat the loaf of bread. Rashi explains, Mishum to have lo hasra safek, it's a hasra safek. Avol Mishum lav shein bo ma'isa lo have a mifter. According to Reish Lakish, the fact that it's a lav shein bo ma'isa is not a reason to be potter. To kasavar lav shein bo ma'isa lo kan olav, because according to Reish Lakish, a lav shein bo ma'isa does in fact get Malkus. And the Gemara continues, V'tarvayu alibad Rabbi Yehuda. Both Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, they're following Rabbi Yehuda in the following. The Tanya, because we learned in a Brisa, V'lo sosiru mimenu ad boker. Again, it says you can't leave it over until morning. V'hanosu mimenu ad boker, and anything that is left over, so it has to be burned. Bo hakasav liten asay achar lo sasay. Here again is the example of a lav hanitak lasay. The pasuk here is giving an asay after the lo sasay, a way to fix it after you violate the transgression. Lomar she'in lo kan olav, and the pasuk is saying that there is no malchus. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. And so the question is, what inference can we make from Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yochanan dayik hachi. Rabbi Yochanan, he infers as follows. Time of the bahakasav. The reason again why there's no malchus is because of the fact that the pasuk has this asay. It's a lav anitik lasay. Halo bahakasav loga. But if not for that, then there would be malchus. Alma hasra safek shma hasra. This also is a case of hasra safek, and you see that hasra safek is in fact a hasra. Reish Lakish dayik hachi, and Reish Lakish he infers the following. Time of the bahakasav. Again, the reason why there's no malchus is because the pasuk comes with the asay, because it's a lav anitik lasay. Halo bahakasav. But if the pasuk did not come with the asay, then loka again, then there would be malchus. But he infers as follows. Alma, we see from this, lav shein bo ma'isa lokan olav. We see that lav shein bo ma'isa does in fact get malchus, because this also is an example of a lav shein bo ma'isa when you simply leave it over. And Rashi explains, V'tarvayu alibad Rabbi Yehuda, they're both following Rabbi Yehuda. The Yamar Gabe Nosr, who says by Nosr, Itzrich Lintuke Lav Li Asay, that you need to sever the lav using this asay. Afa Gav da Hasra Asafik, even though it's Hasra Asafik, V'lav Shein Bo Ma'isa, and even though it's a lav Shein Bo Ma'isa, apparently if not for the fact it was a lav anitik lasay, there would be malchus. It's just that they make different inferences. Rabbi Yochanan, Dayek Mina Alma Hasra Asafik Shma Hasra. Rabbi Yochanan, he infers that you see from this that Hasra Asafik Shma Hasra, again, in the situation of Nosr, it is a hasra safek, because at any particular moment you can't warn him what he's doing is going to cause him that he would have malchus, because he's simply leaving it over, he's simply not eating it, so maybe he'll eat it in the next moment. Reish Lakish dayik minan, Reish Lakish he infers alma lav shein bo ma'isa lokan olav. Again, this is a lav shein bo ma'isa. When the person leaves it over, he simply doesn't eat it, and you see from here that a lav shein bo ma'isa gets malchus. Well, now the Gemara later will ask the tarvayu equal meidach mina, that actually you can make both inferences. So why is it that Rabbi Yochanan only makes one of the inferences and Reish Lakish makes the other? And the Gemara continues, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Nami, according to Reish Lakish also, Havada Hasra Safek, certainly in this case of Nosar, it is a Hasra Safek. Again, you certainly can draw the inference. You can say that it seems from this Brisa that Hasra Safek is Shema Hasra. And the Gemara answers to that, Savar Lo, Ki Idach Tana to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, he holds like the other Tana of Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi explains, Havada Hasra Safek, it certainly is Hasra Safek. Hach de Nosar, meaning the case of Nosar, certainly is a case of Hasra Safek. V'ikol medak nami Hani mino hasra safek shmo hasra. You certainly can infer from that brisa that hasra safek is considered to be hasra. And the Gemara then answered, Ki idach Tana, he holds like the other Tana of Rabbi Yehuda, Diamar lo shmo hasra, who says that it is not considered to be hasra. Again, Ki idach Tana of Rabbi Yehuda, the Tanya, as we learned in a brisa, it says in the brisa, Hika zeh v'chazar v'hika zeh. Let's say he hits this one, and then he goes ahead and he hits that one. And we'll see Rashi in a moment. Kila zeh v'chazar v'kila zeh. Let's say he curses this one, and then he goes ahead and curses the other one. Or Hika shneim b'bas achas. Let's say he hits both of them at once. O kila shneim b'bas achas. Or let's say he curses both of them at once. So chayiv, he's going to be chayiv. And Rashi explains, Misha Girish Ishto, somebody divorces his wife, Nisas, and then she goes ahead and she gets remarried to a second husband. V'yod, and she gives birth. Safek ben Tesla Rishon, Safek ben Zayin Lachram, but it's a Safek, we don't know who the father is. Is it a 9-month child to the first husband? Is it a 7-month child to the second husband? And so now, now he goes ahead, this child goes ahead and he hits this father, and he goes ahead and he hits the other father, Vishtei Hasros, and he does that with 2 warnings. The Havelo Kol Choda Hasra Safek. So each case over there really is a Hasra Safek. Or we can have a case of B'bas Achas where he does it in one shot, meaning B'hasra Achas, meaning he does it with one warning. B'soch Kedei Dibur, he does it B'toch Kedei Dibur, very close to one another. The Havelo Hasras Vadai, that case already is a Hasras Vadai, that's a certain warning. The Mimonavshach Chad Minayu Avu, because Mimonavshach, one of them is going to be the father. And so again, the Tanakama says that in all of these cases we say chayev, and it certainly seems that the Tanakama is saying that hasra suffix is considered a hasra. But Rabbi Yehuda says b'vas achas chayev. If it all happens at once, that's again hasra svadai. So then the person is chayev. But bazach harzeh. But if it's one after the other, so it's a case of hasra suffix, it's pater. It's going to be pater, and that's why Reish Lakish follows this Rabbi Yehuda that hasra suffix is not a hasra. And the Gemara continues, for Rabbi Yochanan Nami, and Rabbi Yochanan also we have the same question. Havadai lav shein bo maisa, certainly the case of Noser is a lav shein bo maisa, and it seems that we can infer from that case that a lav shein bo maisa does get malchus. And the Gemara answers to that, Savar Loki Hadi Amar Avidi Barav and Amar Rav Amram, Amar Rav Yitzchak, Amar Rav Yochanan, he holds like that statement from Ravidi Baravin, that Ravidi Baravin says, that Rav Amram says, that Rav Yitzchak says, that Rav Yochanan says, Rav Yehuda Omer Mishum Rav Yossi Aglili, Rav Yehuda says, in the name of Rav Yossi Aglili, Kalosa se Shabbat Torah, anytime you have a negative commandment in the Torah, Lav sheyesh bo maisa lokan olav, if it's a lav with an action, then we say there's malchus. Lav she'ein bo maisa ein lokan olav, but if it's a lav she'ein bo maisa, so then there is no malchus. And so again, that's what Rabbi Yochanan holds. Lav she'ein bo maisa, there is no malchus. Chutz min hanishba umeimar v'hamekalas chaver b'shem. The only exception is you have someone who takes an oath. That's referring to a false oath. Meimar is a case of tmura, somebody exchanges one sacrificial animal for another, and mekalas chaver b'shem is somebody who curses his friend with the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rashi explains, chutz mi nishba, with the exception of somebody who takes a false oath, umeimer, and somebody who does tmura with an animal that's kodesh. He takes an animal that's chulin, and he says that's tmura for the animal that's kodesh. Umekalas chaver b'shem, and he curses his friend with the name shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'taim mefarish b'tmura b'parakama, the reason is explained in tmura in the first parak. V'ikasha hadale el nami, now if you're going to ask, the case we brought earlier also, nishba, who wasn't that a case of an oath? V'amai poter le Rabbi Yochanan, misham lav shein bo maisen, why is it that Rabbi Yochanan said that in that case the person is exempt because it's a lav shein bo maisa? We say explicitly that when we talk about somebody who takes an oath in terms of something with no maisa, with no action, that he gets malchus, that's talking only about a situation of an oath for something in the past. For example, I ate and he didn't eat. Or let's say he says I didn't eat, but he did eat. But let's say he says he will eat and he doesn't eat. Lo lucky over there actually is no malchus. And the reason is explained in Shvuas and Tmura, and it's based on Psukim. And the Gemara continues, Kasha de Rabbi Yehuda, we have a contradiction within Rabbi Yehuda. Rashi says, Kasha de Rabbi Yehuda letarvayo, according to both Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish, there's a contradiction within Rabbi Yehuda because they both answer, they're following a different sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. And the Gemara continues and answers, either Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, if you're following Reish Lakish, Trei Tanoi, I'll leave it to Rabbi Yehuda. Reish Lakish will say, there's a machlokas Tanoim, there's 2 Tanoim in terms of what Rabbi Yehuda says. Either Rabbi Yochanan, if you're following Rabbi Yochanan, Lokash, it's not difficult. Hadidei, Hadirabi, in one case we're talking about Rabbi Yehuda's own opinion. In the other case, we're talking about the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda's Rebbe, and Rashi explains, Rabbi Shimon, according to Reish Lakish, the Kashalei Hasra Safek. There we had a contradiction within Hasra Safek, whether it's Shema Hasra according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Trei Tanoi, I'll leave it to Rabbi Yehuda. We'll say it's Machlokas Tanoim according to Rabbi Yehuda. And the Rabbi Yochanan, the Kashalei Lav Shein Bo Maisa, according to Rabbi Yochanan, the contradiction is whether or not Lav Shein Bo Maisa gets Malchus. And the answer to that is Hadi Dei v'Hadi Rabbi. In one case, it's his own opinion. In one case, it's his Rebbe's, meaning Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda himself, Lav Shein Bo Maisa lo lokan olav, a lav shein b'maisa does get malchus. V'hadatanya ain lokan olav, in the brisa which said that there's no malchus mishum Rabbi Yossi Haglili Amar, that was Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. And the Gemara continues, Tanan Hassam, we learned in a Mishnah over there, this is a Mishnah Meseches Chulin, and it's also a Mishnah coming up. Hanotel Eim al Habanim, if somebody takes the mother over the children, this is talking about Shiluach Hakan, by the mother bird. Rabbi Yehuda says, Loke ve'enu meshaleach. Rabbi Yehuda says the person gets malchus, he violated the law of Shiluach Hakan, and he doesn't send away. The Chachamim say, Meshaleach ve'enu loke, he sends away, and then he does not get malchus. Zahaklal, this is the rule, Kol mitzvahs losa se sheyesh bo komasei, anytime you have a negative commandment and there's an associated positive commandment, ein chayav aleh, the person is not chayav on that. And Rashi explains, Lo kaveinu mishaleach, again, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the person gets malchus and doesn't send away the mother bird. Kasavar, because Rabbi Yehuda holds, Shaleach meikara mashma. Shaleach is saying you have to send away beforehand, before you take the babies. Lo sikach va'im, don't take the mother, ela shalchena, rather you should send her away, kodem lakicha, before you take. V'avagav dechsiv basar lo sikach. Now, even though Shaleach is written after lo sikach, lav lemeimer doesn't mean to say di'im lokach tashalach, that if you took the babies, so then you should send away the mother bird. Have a lav shenitik laseh, that it should be a lav shenitik laseh, and a lav shekidmu aseh, who rather this is a lav shekidmu aseh. According to Rabbi Yehuda, this is a situation where the aseh precedes the lav, and that's why there's malchus. And Rashi continues, V'chachamim, the Chachamim say, Kosavri shaleach achar lo sikach mashma. They understand that the sending away of the mother bird is following lo sikach, following the violation of the lav. Kidduch siv is written, V'havale nitik laseh, therefore it's considered a lav hanitik laseh. V'im lakach tashalach, so therefore if you do take, so then you should send away the mother bird. Zahaklal, this is the rule, Kol mitzvahs lo saseh ein lokan aleh, ele yekayim hu aseh v'yiftar. Again, according to the Chachamim, you just do the aseh and you are exempt, you will not get malchus. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein lonu elazos v'od acheres. We only have this example and one other. And Rashi explains, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Anu ein lanu, kilomer mishaleach ve'eno loke. It says over here, you send away and don't get malchus, halo shalach loke. So it sounds like if you don't send away the mother bird, then the person will get malchus. For Rabbi Yochanan, bitlo v'lo bitlo islin. Now Rabbi Yochanan himself holds that you have to nullify the aseh by a lav hanitik laseh in order not to get malchus. Umash malei mishaleach tekatani, mishaleach lekeshayir. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan understands that when it says send away the mother bird, it means whenever you want, you can send away the mother bird. Ve'eno loka, and he won't get malchus. Ve'emasai hu loka, and in what situation, when will he actually get malchus? At what point in time has he nullified the possibility of the aseh? That would be kashiargena. That would be, let's say, he kills the mother bird v'yavata leso aseh biyadayim, and then he nullifies the possibility of doing the aseh actively. V'hainu dekamar anu ein lanu, and that's what Rabbi Yochanan is saying. This is the only example. Kilomar afagav dekatani masnisin haklal, even though the Mishnah says this is the rule, demashma kol mitzvahs lo saseh sheyesh bo komaseh shavos lazu. It sounds like all lo sasehs with a komaseh are similar to this. Anu ein lanu bekulan shava lazu sheyeh patur hamalchus tolei bekiyam haseh. We don't have an example similar to this, where the exemption from malchus is dependent on doing the aseh. Ela bein kayim bein lo kayim patur. Rather, whether it's fulfilled, whether it's not fulfilled, the person is actually exempt. Like over here, whether or not they send away the bird, they're still exempt because you have to actually nullify the possibility to send away the mother bird. It's only this and another example where we find the lucky al yedei bitul ha'aseh, where the malchus comes because of the nullification of the aseh. Because you're not going to have a scenario of bitlo, a scenario of nullification, except for these two examples. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Lazar said to him, he said back to Rabbi Yochanan, Heichel, where is the second case? We understand, again, by Shiluach Hakan, it's possible to nullify the aseh by killing the mother bird. Where do we find another example of bitlo? And the Gemara continues, Amar le said back to him, Rabbi Yochanan said to Rabbi Lazar, L'chi sishkach, go and examine, go look around and you'll find it. Nafak dok v'yeshkach. So he went out and he examined and he found the second example. The Tanya, because we learned in a brisa, ones shagirish, let's say a person rapes a woman and then he divorces. And so again, the halach is by somebody who rapes a woman, he's supposed to marry that woman. Now he's divorced that woman, so he's violated the lo saseh. And so the question is he able to fix, by remarrying her, is he able to fix that violation? So it says, Im Yisrael, who if he's a Yisrael and he's able to remarry her, machzir ve'eno loka. So that's exactly what he does. He remarries her, and there won't be malchus. Vim kohen, but if he's a kohen, loka ve'eno machzir. So then he gets malchus because he's not able to remarry her, because it's prohibited for a kohen to marry a divorcee. And so the Gemara says, Hanichul aman detani kaimu v'lo kaimu. Now Now that works according to the one who says, kaima v'lo kaima. We understand that in this particular situation, if he is mekayim, if you hold that he has to be mekayim the asay to get out of malchus, so then he's going to go to court. If he's mekayim the asay by remarrying her, there's no malchus. And if he decides at that moment not to remarry her, then there will be malchus. We can understand this case if you hold kaima v'lo kaima. Elamandatani bitlo v'lo bitlo. But according to the one who says that the person, in order to get malchus, he has to nullify the possibility of doing the asay. So bishlam agabe shiluach hakan. I understand by shiluach hakan, sending away the mother bird. How can you be mevatel the possibility of sending away that bird? Mashkachas law. It's possible, again, as we said, because the person can kill the mother bird, for example. Ela onas, but when it comes to an onus, a case of rape, bitlo v'lo bitlo heche mashkachas law. How do we come up with a scenario bitlo v'lo bitlo? How do you nullify the possibility of the asay of remarrying her? And the Gemara continues and explains, ida katel, if he's going to kill her, so then kamle b'deravamine. So in that situation, let's say he does kill her, so he's not going to get malchus in that situation, because kamle b'deravamine, he's going to get the much greater punishment. You always get the more severe punishment of the death penalty. So it can't be that he eliminates the possibility of remarrying her by killing her, and that's how he gets malchus, because again, he won't get malchus, he would get the more severe punishment. And so the Gemara says, Amar Rav Shimi Mechozna. Rav Shimi Mechozna says, Kagon Shakiba Law Kiddushin Me'acher. What happens is he receives from someone else Kiddushin on her behalf. He's like her agent, and he receives her Kiddushin, and therefore he makes it impossible for him to remarry her. But the Gemara continues, Amar Rav says, Ishavise Shliach, if she's the one that designated him to be a Shliach, so Ikam Mevatlale, so she's actually the one nullifying the possibility, not him, so that's not a good example. And he lo Shavise Shliach, and if she did not make him a Shliach, so Kol Kamina, is he even able to accept Kiddushin for her? Velo Klumi, that's nothing, he can't be an agent without her knowledge. And so the Gemara continues and answers, Elo Amar Rav Shimi min Nahardoi. Rav Shimi from Nahardoi says, Kagon Shahidira Baravim. What happens is he makes a public neder, and in the public neder he essentially says he's going to get no benefit from her, for example, and so by doing that, it's impossible for him to marry her. The Gemara says, Hanich Lamandamar Neder Shahudar Barav Mein Lo Hafar. Now that works according to the one who says that if a neder is made in public, there is no way to annul it. Elo Lamandamar Yesh Lo Hafar. But according to the one who says that one can annul it, so Michael Amemer. So then what are you going to say? It's still possible. He still hasn't totally nullified the possibility of the assay, because this vow can be annulled. And the Gemara answers to that, the Medira law al das Ravim. He makes the neder to her on the knowledge, on the understanding of the public. It's called al das Ravim, and that cannot be annulled. The Amar Amemer, because Amemer says Hilchas ad halacha is neder shehudar baravim. If a neder is made in public, yesh lo hafara, there is annulment, but al das Ravim. But if it's made on the understanding of the public, ein lo hafara, so then there is no hafara, there is no possibility of annulment. Rashi explains, Hanichol Mandamar Pluksi Meseches Gittin Bashalech Get. This is Machlokas in Gittin, whether a neder shehudar barabim has hafara. Al das Rabim, let's say it's al das Rabim, Shemotza ba'avon, Sha'asura lo, let's say he found some kind of sin that she's forbidden to him, Vehidira al das Rabim, V'al das Bezdin, and he made this neder on the knowledge of the public and on the knowledge of the court. So again, in that situation, there is no hafara. And we'll take a look at the Bach over here, Das Ravim Shemotza Ba'avon. Again, Rashi says it has to be where he found something wrong with her, some kind of sin. Near Be'enai Develo Avon, the Bach says it seems that without a sin, Lo Motzi Lahadira, he wouldn't actually be able to make this neder to HaMeshubedla, because really he is Meshubed to her, he's supposed to remarry her, so there has to be some kind of reason. But the Gemara continues, V'su Lekar, there are no other examples where we can have a Losa Say Shenitik Lasei of Bitlo V'lo Bitlo. Rashi says, V'su Lekar Mitzvahs Losa Say Sheyesh B'kum Asei Dalilki Allah. There's no other cases of a mitzvah's losase where there is a kum aseh and you're able to get malchus. Va'ika gezel, but what about gezel by stealing? The Rachman Amar, because the Torah says lo sigzel, don't steal, and it says v'heishav esagzel, it says you have to return what was stolen. That's the asay. And mashkon, when it comes to taking collateral, the Rachman Amar, the pasuk says lo savo el beso lavot avoto, don't come to his house to take the collateral. And then there's an asay of hashev toshiv lo ha'avot kevo hashemesh, that you should return it to him. Umashkachas la bekimo v'lo kimo uvit lo v'lo bitlo. Those kinds of los asay shenitak lasay. Not only can we have it by kimo v'lo kimo, of course we can have that. Let's say he steals, and so then when he comes to court, he has the opportunity to return the gezela, or he will get malchus. But you can also find that scenario by bitlo v'lo bitlo. Let's say, for example, the person destroys the gezela. He's not able to return it because now it's destroyed. The same thing is true by the mashkon. And the Gemara continues and answers, Hasam over there, kevan dechai b'tashlum, and even if he destroys what he stole, or he destroys the mashkon, but he's going to be chayiv to pay. And so ein loka mishalim, so you wouldn't get malchus and pay. And so in that situation, even the destruction wouldn't really help, because there would still be something nothing to do, you'd have to pay money, and there would not be malchus in that scenario. That's why you do not have a case by lo saseh shenitzak la'aseh, according to bitlo v'lo bitlo, you do not have a scenario over there where the person is going to be able to nullify the possibility of doing the aseh. But the Gemara continues and asks, Maskef lo Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera asks on this, Hoika mashkono shel ger, what about the mashkon of a convert? Umeis hager, and then the convert died. The idea is you have no one to return it to because he has no heirs. Rashi explains, Mashkon mashkachas lo bitlo shesarfu. Again, by collateral, it's possible to nullify the possibility of the aseh by burning it. Hare mashkono shel ger, what about the collateral of a convert? V'sarfu b'chay hager, while the ger is alive, he burns it. Umeis hager, and then the ger dies. V'ein lo yorshin, and there are no heirs. The lesa b'tashlum, and now it's impossible to pay back money because there's nobody to pay. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Zayin Amud Beis.